Hey everybody, it's me Nick, Homeschool Helper here. I told you in the Geography Week 19 video that I almost died in Guam. And that's a true story. And so let me tell you the whole story. So here's the thing, when I was first grade through fourth grade, I lived in a country called the Philippines. My dad was in the Air Force, and so we lived all over the place. Philippines, Hawaii, Italy, Germany, all these places. And so when I lived in the Philippines, we had a great time, we had a nice little house, we were living great. And so all of a sudden, a volcano right next door to us decided to explode, which meant we had to leave. And in situations like that, it's called evacuation. So we've had to pack everything up in like an hour, get the heck out of there. And honestly, if you want me to go into more detail on this story, I'd love to. Sound off in the comments and let me know. But what I will say is that eventually we got on a giant aircraft carrier called the USS Abraham Lincoln that took us from the Philippines all the way to Guam. And Guam is a weird place because it's not really its own country. It's not a state in America, but it's kind of part of the US, which is weird. I don't understand it. But we went there, and me and my family, I had two younger sisters and my mom. My dad was off fighting a war or shooting the volcano. I don't know what he was doing, but we were all there together, and they put us on this island in Guam in these dingy, gross little military barracks. I remember them so clearly because like the mattresses were gross. There were no doors in the door frames for some reason. I don't really understand. And at this point in the evacuation, we were just kind of given free rein to run around and be crazy. I mean, I was making like fake weapons out of sticks and having fake little war battles with myself and anybody I could find. Here's an important part of the story that you should know. When I was this age, I was a little bit of a problem child. I bothered people and I did dumb things that ended up getting me in a lot of trouble. Basically, I was running around this old military base and I was bothering people. You know, just sort of picking on people, pulling their hair, you know, just being relatively mischievous. And then I decided to go and take it a little too far, and I picked up a rock and threw it at some kids who were hanging out. Take that, dummies. Now, I say kids, but what I really mean are teenagers. So here's this little fourth grade kid who has decided to throw a rock at a bunch of teenagers in the middle of a volcanic evacuation who were probably not in the best mood in the first place, and they got mad and they started to chase me. Now, I don't know where my mom was, I don't know where my sisters were, but I knew that I was there being chased by a bunch of teenagers, and I ran up and down the stairs of this building that we were staying in. Finally, I made it to the third floor, and I kind of thought that I'd lost them, but it turns out they had surrounded me like the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park. They were hunting me and they caught me. One of them came up this side, one of them came up this side. And I was pretty much stuck between a teenager and a teenager. And I started crying because that was my only defense mechanism at the time, just trying to get them to leave me alone. Please don't, I'm too scared, don't. But it didn't seem to work. And so they both grabbed me, one by each arm, and they started yelling at me. And one of them, the older boy, decided that the only thing he could think to do was dangle me over the railing of what kind of looked like an old motel and started holding me by my ankles. Now, we were 3 floors up. If he had dropped me, that might have been the end of me. And I wouldn't be here to tell you the story. But as it turns out, as moms tend to do, she showed up at just the right moment and saw her little boy being dangled over a railing by 2 teenage kids she'd never met. And she starts losing it. She's yelling at him, screaming at him to let me go, and they're like, "You really want us to let him go?" And she's like, no, maybe don't let him go, but like pull him back up and stop messing with my kid. And they said, "He threw a rock at us." And she's like, "I'm sure he did, but I still need you to not kill my child." And so eventually, reluctantly, they brought me back up and let me go. Now, the moral of the story is threefold. Number 1, don't throw rocks at people. Number 2, maybe don't run around old military barracks on the island of Guam. It's dangerous. And number 3, moms are always there to save you. So there it is, people. That's the story of how I almost died in Guam. Hope you enjoyed it.